Viewers, the latest news about Ethiopia, Amhara, and Tigray region is that, according to the latest reports, thousands of people demonstrated on Tuesday in northern Ethiopia's Tigray region to demand the return home of people displaced by a 2-year war there and the withdrawal of outside forces that have remained since the conflict ended. The war between government troops and their allies from neighboring Eritrea and the Amhara region on one side and Tigrayan forces on the other concluded with a truce last November after claiming tens of thousands of lives. Millions were forced from their homes, including hundreds of thousands from land disputed by Tigray and Amhara, whose security forces and military men continue to occupy the area. Eritrean troops also remain inside Ethiopian territory in several border towns. According to the humanitarian workers, its government has declined to comment on the matter. Demonstrators peacefully rallied on Tuesday in several major cities, including the regional capital, Mekelle, Adigrat, and Shire. They held signs with slogans like "Invaders must leave our homeland," according to footage broadcast on Tigray TV, which is controlled by the party that runs Tigray. The peace deal has held since November, with both sides acknowledging progress in implementing key provisions. Tigray forces have begun disarming, an interim government has been set up, and many basic services have been restored. But Tigrayan authorities have complained about the continuing presence of the outside military forces. Last week, Getachew Reda, who leads the region's interim government, said Eritrean forces had recently prevented a team monitoring implementation of the peace deal from carrying out their work. Spokespeople for Eritrea and Ethiopia's government and the regional administrator of Amara did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Another big news is that four people were killed in a deadly attack by armed forces on two police stations in Bikoji city in RC zone of Oromia state, 220 kilometers from the capital Addis Ababa. Sources told that the casualties include two policemen, a member of the local militia, and a security guard. Residents of the city who spoke to news on conditions of anonymity for security reasons reported that the armed forces engaged in heavy gunfire beginning at 4 a.m. local time on Tuesday. The attack occurred barely a week after Bakoji, a city home of Ethiopia's best-known runners, hosted the second edition of the Great Bakoji Run, which was attended by the senior federal and regional government officials. One resident said that a fierce exchange of the gunfire erupted at around 4 a.m. on Tuesday morning, marked by heavy exchange of gunfire. The armed group targeted two police stations located in the city and a branch of Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. The two policemen, a member of the local militia, and the security guard were killed during the assault on one of the two police stations in the city. 8 prisoners were freed from the police station, although there has been an attempt to targeting one of the two commercial banks in the city. There are no breaks, the eyewitness said. The prolonged exchange of fire between the armed group and security forces lasted between 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., during which the armed forces employed a coordinated attack, dividing themselves into groups, but withdrawing from the city after the arrival of members of defense forces from Asela, the capital of Arsi zone. Furthermore, the resident mentioned that the security forces relayed information indicating that 6 out of 8 released prisoners have voluntarily returned to the station the following day. Addis Standard couldn't independently corroborate the information. Offering insight into the targeted locations, the resident explained Bokoji city has two police stations, one situated in the city center and the other serving the distance of district or rural area. I reside in close proximity to the district police station and could audibly discern the intensity of gunfire directed at the station. Tragically, a policeman and a woman lost their life during the attack. Additionally, a member of the local militia and a security guard were also among the casualties. The anonymous resident further disclosed that the city's security forces were present on standby in the vicinity of the Galama forest and the Kaka mountain chains in the eastern of the city, anticipating the arrival armed forces, but that has left few policemen stationed at the police stations. However, the armed group, who are believed to be members of the Oromo Liberation Army (OLA), entered the city of Limo, some 7 kilometers outside of Bokoji, through a different route, catching the city off guard and vulnerable to the attack. Another resident, known as Samson, alias used for security purposes, described the events of the day as a terrifying ordeal. He confirmed that 4 individuals had been killed and said with one of the victims, the member of the local militia, died after having been taken home. Despite the intensity of the attacks and the tensions, therefore, normal activities have returned to the city. Additional security forces have also been deployed to reinforce the existing security forces in the area. The residents did not consequently establish the identity of the attackers, and at this standard, repeated attempts to contact the city police and the mayor's office to get more information were unsuccessful. Furthermore, a group of 10 opposition political parties known as Cases of Opposition Parties (COP) issued an anonymous statement denouncing a recent study by the government-funded policy that think tank Policy Studies Institute (PSI) floating the idea on the need for constitutional reform. Calling the president highly disturbing, COP said the said search is a methodology flawed wish list of certain quarters and above all a untimely initiative. It also labeled as unfortunate that such a lopsided paper is presented to the public at this critical juncture of our country's history, where the bloodiest war just ended and we are still in the midst of war in much of Oromia. The study, which majorly focused on selected provisions of the constitution related to the group rights, came under criticism from the various constitutional scholars and has since been a topic of online debates both among activists and media personalities. Of the topic of constitutional provisions, the study also included a topic related to ethnic-based political parties and said overwhelming respondents of the study rejected the formation of ethnic-based political parties. In its statement sent to at the standard, the COP, which among other parties has as it be major opposition parties Oromia and Somali region, including Oromo Federal Congress, OFC, Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, and the Ogaden National Liberation Front, ONLF, respectively. Further said that such papers are not only misleading but also lead our country into more chaos, as there is very little consensus regarding constitutional reform among the country's political forces and the diverse Ethiopian communities. It is tailored to serve a hidden political interest of certain circles and at the contains highly deceptive findings. COP. It should not be forgotten that it is the "I can do it alone" that has led the country into the endless crisis for decades, in which millions lost their lives and millions more have been displaced, the causes said. The causes also questioned the methodology used in the study, which asserted that 75% of 1123 survey respondents believed that the current constitution of Ethiopia should be changed. It is highly disturbing that the so-called research has been conducted with little regard for scientific objectivity, and as can be read from the methodology used as well as our own observation. It is tailored to serve a hidden political interest of certain circles and ad that contains highly deceptive findings. Here it is the most important to note that politicizing scientific research for narrow political interest and personal gains can easily jeopardize the foundation of our already precarious stability and the hopes for a democratic transition, the COP said. As opposed to pushing the agenda of the constitutional reform, the COP urged all the concerned parties that under the existing Ethiopian situation, genuine national dialogue and a broad-based agreement to be reached among the country's political forces on the way. The future Ethiopian government is structured as well the political system is organized. The caucus also requested the ruling party and its government structures to ensure the right to self-determination of the nation's nationalities and the peoples of Ethiopia as per the provisions in the existing constitutions when treating the demands of the various peoples of the country, such as Volita's quest for referendum to save the people from unnecessary conflict and bloodshed. So viewers, that's all from my side. Thanks for watching and please subscribe and like.